How do we stop the rising obesity rate with half the U.S. population projected to be obese by 2030? The question, why is it even added? I mean, in sweets it's okay, but in things that are supposed to be salty, why take the effort to ruin both taste and health? Not to mention it's even added to simple bread, so you cannot make a decent toast or sandwich. So the only decent bread I can get is in the Polish store, which is 6 hours of driving away. And even that's only yesterday's bread, because it's imported from Poland. Even frozen pizzas imported from the UK are healthier than locally made vegetable sandwiches. The biggest culprit is pop/soda/coke/fizzy drinks. Even when people go on diets they still down liters of the stuff. Meaning any energy expended comes from the masses of sugar and not their fat reserves. Which in turn is why you get people bemoaning not losing weight even though they're only eating salad or W.E. The big corn syrup takeover in the American food market is the worst thing to happen to American health. Eliminate the excessive addition of high-fructose corn syrup to goddamn near every product sold here. Education about dietary needs, planning meals and eating healthy on a budget in public schools. Make gym class less humiliating and more fun. Embarrassment is often the highlight of gym class for fat kids and it discourages them from getting the exercise that would help them the most. They realized all us fat kids signed up for the walking class in high school and changed the class to what us kids called fat camp instead. Needs to be more focused on exercise for fun and health into life, not rules of various sports ball games or running until everyone who does do cross country is miserable. I would have loved to see more options available to kids that are seen in the adult gym world. Zumba, cycling, Tai Chi and yoga come to mind, so that when they graduate they can go continue doing what they enjoyed instead of hating anything that resembles I agree with you in general, but my experience of what we call gym in the UK was different. It wasn't so much the embarrassment that bothered me, no one really cared, it was the monotony of it. Football every session. For like 3 years, we never did anything else because it was a mandatory class and the teacher just didn't care that some of the kids aren't interested in football. I mean corn is super cheap, due to corn subsidies, and healthy, but when you can functionally turn it into sugar for next to nothing, it means you can make much more calorie-dense food for the same price as cane sugar. The biggest reason why there is corn syrup and next to everything is a byproduct of corn subsidies. Let me start by saying I don't think this is the main issue, but I do think it is part of it. People work from 8-9 to 4 or 5 maybe later, then add on a 1 hour for their commute. People only have 4 or 5 hours for themselves. That's if they don't have kids or another job. Exercise and cooking healthy meals take time. Some people may not prioritize them or may not have enough energy to at the end of the day. So in my opinion part of this solution would be to give people more time/a shorter workday or week. Amen brother. There's days I'm out of the house from 6:30 am 9:00 p.m. Get home late down to help put the little one to bed, which I'd promptly fall asleep in only to wake up at 11 and crawl into my own bed, all to start over again at 5:45 the next day. My wife says I should join a gym. I just look at her confused as I don't know where that 90 minutes would come from. Mental energy is a huge factor. There was a study that showed people whose cognitive resources are drained end up making worse decisions about food than people who still have some gas in the tank. The experiment went something like giving people a memory test. One group had to memorize just 2 digits. The other group had to memorize 7 digits. They then offered each group a snack in the middle of the experiment, cake and fruit. But the snack itself was part of the experiment. They found that statistically speaking, the people who had to memorize 7 digits went for cake with higher frequency than people who just had to memorize 2 digits. Burning cognitive resources even on fairly simple tasks can make it challenging for some people to make healthy choices for themselves. I am all in favor of a shorter workday. 4-day work week would be nice, but we all know that companies would just push people to work 10-hour shifts instead of 8-hour shifts anyway. I'd rather just have 6-hour workdays 5 days week. Getting an extra 2 hours back each day would be a huge help. Ultimately, life shouldn't be like this. It's hard enough to change years of bad habits and lifestyle even if you have unlimited time. We simply need to look at our labor force differently and not allow people to become so rich and so poor. It's not going to magically get better. Factories that once needed hundreds now operate with a team of 50, and in 10 years it'll be 5. It's not going to stop. Yep, the expectations were set for single-income homes with a spouse to maintain the home. That allowed more time for leisure, exercise, kids, etc. And there still wasn't enough time in the day then. I'm not saying we go back to 1950s housewives so much as just make it so a single income can support a home, or make communal living normal and legal and bearable, or something. Car-centric city design. When you have to drive for work, drive to the store, drive to drop your kids off, all you end up doing is sitting on your butt. Say you somehow find the time to exercise, now you either drive to the park to run or drive to the gym. I've been fortunate enough to be able to bike to work, in the past, from home now, even pre-pandemic, bike to drop off the kids and walk to park areas, and it has really changed my quality of life. But to do this, we have to be willing to make sacrifices. More dense cities, smaller houses, not cities catering to big box stores with giant parking lots over smaller stores that front the street in a dense shopping center. It really won't happen on a broad scale in America because people are so accustomed to the things that are making them miserable that they fight change tooth and nail. I truly believe it is life-changing to be able to move and live life in your city without a car, and people would be shocked at how happy they are when they are free to move more in their daily life. I think this hits the nail on the head. I work a pretty physical job but not enough to actually lose weight doing it. By the time I actually get home I'm already sore and exhausted. The last thing I want to do is more exercise. You're also right about having very little time. I shower, do my laundry, read mail, emails and respond, make and eat dinner. Not to mention I have to study for certain tests I need to take. Add in that other people might be working while going to school. It's almost impossible to find any time to really do anything healthy. Honestly, I think a lot of modern problems would be solved by having one person in the home. And I am not saying the woman should be at home. It could be whoever, or maybe they switch around. But think about it. If you have one person at home, you have one person there that can cook healthy meals even for the person that is at work all day. They can keep the house clean, which helps a lot with health and depression, being in a clean environment. If there are kids, those kids have someone at home to help with homework and play with them rather than them being in daycare all day or home alone playing video games. The kids can also help around the house with the at-home person and learn valuable life skills like cooking and maintenance and stuff. And the working person doesn't have to work all day and then come home and worry about working the rest of their meager time doing chores. I think just having that load off would help everyone be healthier physically, mentally, and help children develop better and have a closer bond within families. There are probably at least a dozen things that would help. One that comes to mind is investing more substantially in public infrastructure toward the objective of making more places walkable would be a step in the right direction. Better public transport, more parks and open spaces, better bike paths, better walking paths, including more trees planted for shade, and just city beautification in general that encourages people to want to get out and move around more. The more walkable cities in the world tend to also have lower levels of obesity, and again, there are a lot of factors here. This is just one thing, but it's still a thing, and the thing about it is that it is so lateral to the problem that people get encouraged to do it, be more active, basically without even realizing it. It becomes a consequence of enjoying their area more. As a fat non-American, there's only one way to stop it: make healthy food cheap and easily accessible, and unhealthy food expensive and not easily accessible. Also, all schools should offer healthy lunches. Honestly, the rest is bullshit, because if you're overworked, underpaid, depressed, and tired, you are going to opt for that $1 burger instead of spending time, money, energy on a balanced meal. Yep, to the last part. Working 60 hours a week being salaried leaves no energy for working out or cooking a healthy meal. Being depressed leaves no energy or desire to work out or to prep for a week of healthy meals. I've had to switch to a standing desk with a mini treadmill underneath to start covering the workouts. But days I have back-to-back Zoom meetings I'm back sitting down. If I could afford a personal chef I'd have healthy eating covered lol. Education goes a long way too. People need to understand calories and how weight loss is just calories in, calories out. That's it. Ultimately, once I gave into that, I lost all my weight. It's 85% diet and 15% exercise according to a few studies. You can play video games all day and the weight will come off. Once you realize that, start tracking your calories. The weight comes off, and people need to realize that the stomach takes a while to tell the brain it isn't hungry anymore. People overeat for this reason. Sugar is also a massive issue. It's in everything almost. That's why obesity started skyrocketing in the 80s. The fat makes you fat trend. Companies made low-fat versions of food, but added a lot of sugar to compensate. Sugar is terrible for weight loss. If I could spend the same amount of money to get healthier options, I absolutely would. At Chick-fil-A I exclusively get the grilled sandwich. Half the time I forget to ask for no butter on the bun though. When Dunkin' had it, I asked for the Beyond Patty every time instead of the normal sausage or the fried chicken thing they have. If I could go to a drive-thru and get some grilled fish, little to no added oil, a cup of mixed veggies, a 12-ounce decaffeinated green tea, and then maybe an orange for dessert, I would gladly choose that over some greasy burger and fries every time. It's all about minimizing the time and cost of healthy foods. I'm going to get the cheapest thing around me, factoring in time as a cost. I think a lot of people operate the same way. We go for whatever is the most convenient. If we made healthy food as cheap and widespread as McDonald's, I think we'd see a real culture shift around food. I'm really sick of people saying healthy food isn't accessible. Buy a bag of rice and some vegetables and beans for $15 and feed yourself for days. Roasting vegetables takes absolutely zero effort besides tossing in a minimal amount of oil and a pinch of salt and pepper. The bottom line is that here, people are just lazy as shit and stubborn as shit. Everyone knows that buying fresh vegetables isn't expensive, they just opt to eat differently. Hell, I am guilty of it too. Sometimes you just want to eat the burrito, but to continually go on about healthy food not being accessible, it's just not true. I work 12-14-hour days in this film industry. Sometimes I choose an unhealthy option but most of the time I go home and I take the extra 20 minutes to make sure that I make a healthy decision. Yeah, I have understood that healthy food was hard to find in the US. But it is always possible if you are a tourist in NY or the West Coast. It just costs a bit and require effort to find. Then I went on a business trip to Indiana. Holy shit, it was bad. I felt like I had a 30 kilograms blanket on me when I woke up every morning due to the food the evening before. Just constant exhaustion for a week. Just impossible to find something that was not one or all of below. Sugar, white starch, excessive amounts of fatty meat, absolutely no vegetables. Food desert indeed. We've tried that multiple times before but the structure of our government is so inherently flawed that lobbyists from different food industries ruin it every time. See, every iteration of the food pyramid being influenced by agriculture industries. The got milk campaigns, marinara sauce as a vegetable in school lunches, the all fat is bad fad, the all cholesterol is bad fad, and on and on. My family came from other countries, so we're used to eating smaller sized meals, therefore cooked me regular normal sized meals. My partner, whose family is wholly American, grew up eating much larger portions. He has always eaten until stuffed, while I have always eaten until satiated, but not stuffed. He is learning and I'm proud. I want him to be healthy and live for forever with me. But that's hard when you don't portion control. Yeah, people literally train their kids to not understand when they are full by enforcing clean plate club, then plonk down adult-sized portions in front of them. They act like not force-feeding their children until they're sick is some kind of trick. If you don't pork yourself full at every opportunity and lick the plate, people groan in concern that you're sick. I know people who get so frustrated that they can't lose weight when they only eat healthy. I eat baked salmon, brown rice, and steamed broccoli every night, but fail to notice that it's a heap of rice, a mountain of broccoli, and a full pound fillet of fish. Just because food is nutritious does not mean it has 0 calories and you can eat an infinite amount and still lose weight. There are systemic problems with this too. You can't get food from a restaurant without being served a mountain, and generally, people will comment if you don't eat the bulk of it. I agree, serving sizes just aren't a thing to people who aren't paying attention. Just fill up the plate, get seconds if it's tasty. I've noticed that when people get a normal size portion at a restaurant here, they usually have a fit. Meanwhile, enormous portions are praised in the reviews. Everyone is saying fast food, but a lot of fast food isn't that terribly calorie-dense until you pair it with a large fries and a large Coke and a pie. It's not the food itself, though it is definitely not nearly as healthy as home-cooked food, but the portions of it. People should really learn that feeling hunger doesn't mean I have to eat right the fuck now. Hard to do when they grew up in a house stuffed with snacks and food, and every time they felt the slightest bit of hunger they immediately ate something. Normal hunger isn't a critical priority Alpha 1 emergency alert, it's just a notification. Stomach contents successfully sent to guts for processing. But many people have never gotten past this point, so their brain thinks it's the starving to death alarm. This is literally the biggest move the government could make. They wouldn't even need to eliminate every corn subsidy, though they should. They could just make any corn which has an end product intended for human consumption and/or that is human grade and eligible for subsidy. The US has the highest per capita consumption of HFC of any country. It is sweeter and more addictive than sugar. Even if HFC is not objectively worse than the same amount of sugar, the issue is that HFC is so cheap to make that it gets put in everything, specifically so that people get addicted. There's a reason so many Europeans say American candy is sickeningly, off-puttingly sweet. If we stopped subsidizing HFC, it would likely lower its overwhelming presence in our foods, which could help our obesity rates. This sounds good in theory, but, and I say this as someone who lost a ton of weight this year, you feel like you're starving constantly, and that's understandably not something most people want to deal with. It's hard work to maintain a healthy weight. I'm honestly on a bit of a backslide now because to maintain a healthy weight I have to cut out like 90% of foods and have to make everything myself. The issue with biking in my area of the States is that it's hot. It's too hot and humid at any time of the day to just exist outside, much less try and go somewhere. Add to that the general lack of sidewalks, public transportation, and lack of lighting, and there's nowhere for me to go and feel safe at night when it might be cool enough to do anything for a good half of the year. For the rest of the year, just the lack of sidewalks and lit paths is an issue, since I get off at 8 p.m. and the sun sets at, like, 6 p.m. Seconded. But I will say there's a right and a wrong way to do it. Food tech at my school was shit in this regard. Most of our assignments were to cook dessert-style foods but make them healthy. Examples: apple pie, but no sugar is allowed, zucchini muffins, granola bars with no actual granola, literally just baked oats. The biggest takeaway I got from those classes was that healthy food tastes like shit. Obviously I've now realized that isn't true, but for God's sake, desserts are not supposed to be good for you. It would have been much better if they impressed on us the need for moderation in sweet things and taught us how to make healthy balanced meals. This isn't the UK, not America, but the point still stands. Just teach the facts about the science of calories and metabolism and combat misinformation about dieting fads. I'm sure if everyone has access to the same information they'll be able to make a well-informed decision about who am I kidding. We can't even get people to stop drinking horse dewormer and get a fucking shot in the arm. We're doomed.